One of the sectors that obviously will be dominating the action today, which will be in center focus, is the IT space. And that's because of the results that we got from Accenture and, more importantly, their guidance. Now, interestingly, Nifty IT has been the outperforming sector this week, which is why this is coming at a pretty critical, interesting juncture. For instance, TCS is up 2% for this week, outperforming the Nifty. You can see, that's the 7-day chart. Actually, if we look at a week to date, then it will become very clear. Monday to now, the Nifty IT is up about a little over 1%, whereas the Nifty is more or less flat. That's a 7-day performance. Okay, let's go forward and discuss this with Manik Taneja, Executive Director, IT Services at Axis Capital. Manik, good morning. Thank you for joining in. So, a lot of people are reading into the Accenture commentary because they're talking about deferrals in small deals, and that's being taken as a key negative, especially for the Indian players. But what would you say? And also the fact that, I was looking at the US component of Accenture's revenue, which has grown just 2%, and that's the lowest growth in, I think, some 3 years. So what's the read-through, and should we be concerned here in India? And if so, then for what category of stocks?
So, first of all, thank you for having me on the show. And I would say there is always a limited read-through from Accenture results. And Accenture results are essentially confirming the trend that we've been seeing even for Indian companies over the past 6 to 9 months. So even if you look at the Indian company results, essentially, it's basically the growth from US which has been dragging overall growth. And it was no different for Accenture. And the second thing that I would essentially point out is that amongst the verticals, there is broad-based moderation. And for Accenture, consulting business essentially has slowed down from a 30% year-on-year local currency growth 12 months back to about a minus 1% local currency growth in the reported quarter. Managed services / outsourcing, which is the real comparable for Indian IT, has held up well, even though even over there, the growth moderation has happened over the course of last 12 months. Now, answering your question with regards to how should one be reading the commentary on some of the smaller deal flow, I would just say that companies would always get some natural flow of business with existing customers, which are extensions rather than deals that would generally be reported. And it is over there that almost all companies are reporting pressure. And that's the reason why the near-term outlook across companies is much more modest. This dynamic, I would say, given the higher dependence of North America for tier 2 companies, that's where it raises more risk. But I would say, rather than painting it with a broad brush, I would say, given the current environment, some companies will hold up much better, and that's true both for the larger companies as well as for the smaller companies.
All right. Hi, Manik. Good morning. Nigel on this side. Good to hear your thoughts. Manik, I was looking at the CMT, that's a communication, media and technology part of their business. There was, I think a little bit more weakness out there. And Tech Mahindra, I think, has the highest exposure to that space. Would you view it negatively from year on for that company? Given that CMT was weak, which company gets impacted the most?
Sure. So I would say, for Accenture, within that CMT, you also have the high-tech customer base and the media customers. And those are the customers which are hurting more given whatever you've been picking up in terms of the news flow, in terms of headcount rationalizations that have been undertaken by some of these high-tech customers. In case of Tech Mahindra, the communication vertical is much more heavy in favor of the TSPs, and thereby I would not draw direct inferences in terms of a complete impact or a similar performance for Tech Mahindra in the communications vertical.
Okay.
Manik, just another question. Earnings season is still some time away. But the last quarter was marked by this huge divergence between what the large cap companies reported and how they were speaking and their body language and the way mid-caps are flying. A lot of mid-cap IT companies actually reported very good results. Now, given what Accenture is saying, and they're talking about, this deferrals in small-sized deals, could that have a bigger impact even on the mid-sized companies here in India?
So, Surbhi, even amongst the mid-tier companies, you are essentially seeing a mixed performance in the March quarter. So, companies like Emphasis have struggled. Companies like LTI Mindtree, which I would say somewhere between the mid-tier companies and the tier 1s, have had tepid growth. And I would say that the performance is likely to be in a similar fashion, if I'm thinking about the next 3 to 6 months, some companies will still sustain reasonable sequential growth, while others may struggle. I think it's a function of both your underlying strength of the business, strength of your customer relationships, and the customers that segment that you're exposed to.
So very quickly, Manik, last 30 seconds, let's come to the stock calls. I believe you like HCL Tech, but you have a reduce on Infosys and TCS. Just quickly explain that to us. And what would be your top picks, if any, across the spectrum, mid-cap or large-cap?
So amongst the tier ones, our preference has been with HCL Tech over an Infosys and a TCS. And there is significant outperformance that you've seen over the course of calendar year 23 year till date in favor of HCL Tech. Given the relative outperformance, I would say some of the absolute upsides may be limited for HCL Tech as well. And amongst the tier two names, our preference essentially has been with Coforge and then followed by Emphasis. Coforge is a company which should continue to do very well in terms of both growth and margins through the near term, with some tailwinds from the way their European exposure is and the way currencies are behaving. And Emphasis is more of a valuation call, while numbers, from a number standpoint, they might continue to struggle.
Manik, hi, good morning. Sorry, just a little unrelated, but do you have coverage on Cyient?
No, that's not a name that we cover.
Okay, all right. There's a new IPO, there's a subsidiary which is making it to the market. IPO, Cyient DLM. IPO opens on the 27th. They're raising about 600 crores. According to the RHP, we had the management with us yesterday. So that should be an interesting one. The Cyient stock itself has done phenomenally well, 1,500. Manik, it's a pleasure. Great to have you with us here. Thank you very much for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
Well, we'll take a quick commercial break here. There's 15 minutes to go for the pre-open session at 9 a.m. Anuj will be here with a quick trade setup. We'll get you the top stocks for the day with our technical and F&O experts coming up in just a second.